A. Calculate the material variances in as much detail as the information allows for the month of February.
Yes.
B. Calculate the labor efficiency variances in as much detail as the information allows for the month of February. Then C. Assess the performance of the production manager for the month of February.
All right, the three things are material variance in as much detail as the information allows. That's the kind of question, a very modern question. So they won't tell you whether to use whatever, mix or yield, planning or operational, whatever. They will just give you that kind of information, and then you will have to use your discretion. So you would have to be clear about what you're doing immediately you see the question. And then the second part says the labor efficiency, just labor efficiency. Wow, not even labor expenditure, just efficiency in as much detail as the information allows for the month of February. All right, so that's fine. And then they say assess the performance of the production manager. Maybe this would be a good point for me to now start receiving our write-ups. So maybe I'll just allow you to do the B part, the C part of the two questions, so that I'll be able to judge how well your writing skills are. Is that fine?
Okay.
All right, so let's move. Let's read the question. Please go ahead. You're not here again. The school company manufactures school uniforms. One of its largest contacts is with the Girl Private School Trust, GPST, which has 35 schools across the country, all with the same school uniform. In a recent review of the uniforms at the GPST schools, the school's spring-summer dress had been redesigned to incorporate a dropped, waistband. Now that would immediately, redesigning starts telling me about operational and planning, Abi. Immediately I see that I can pick up some kind of information and know what I'm doing. So redesigning means if they change the product design, remember what happened in one of the questions we looked at recently. Once they change the product design, that would affect the amount of material that they will use in this case, and maybe the labor efforts too. Each of the new dresses now requires 2.2 meters of material, which is 10% more material than the previous style, the dress required. However, a new material has also been chosen by GPST, which costs only $2.85 per meter, which is 5% cheaper than the material used on the previous dresses. Oh, 5% cheaper. Okay, so we can now get what it was before. In February, the total amount of material used and purchased at this price was 54,560 meters. Now, the design of the new dresses has meant that a complicated new sewing technique needed to be used. Consequently, all staff required training before they could design production, before they could begin production. That would generally, is very easy how you would see learning curve issues coming into this kind of question. Every time you see material, you can understand the labor issues now arising with this because of the complexity of the design. Remember, one of our criteria for learning curve to exist is that there must be some level of complexity to the process. So a very mundane physical process might not have learning curve, but something that has some level of complexity will. Now, they said the manager of the sewing department expected each of the new dresses to take 10 minutes to make, as compared to 8 minutes per dress from the old style. Oh, so it was 8 minutes before, now it's 10 minutes. So it has increased. Let's be careful about these things. If not, we're going to make mistakes. SU has 24 staff, each of whom works 160 hours per month and is paid a wage of $12 per hour. Okay. All staff worked all of their contracted hours in February on production of GPST dresses, and there was no idle time. No labor rate variances arose in February. So no labor rate variance. So the only thing we're going to look at, that's why they ask us for labor efficiency. With the information that's given to you, sometimes you might calculate and you get a nil variance, showing that no variance occurred. If we have enough information, if we stubbornly did it, then we'll see that we'll have a nil labor rate variance. Now they give us the activity level for February as follows. So budgeted production and sales 30,000, actual production and sales 24,000. So very different from the structure where we have standard on top, budgeted in the middle, and actual under. It's just very random here. But really, similar styles if we look at the paragraphs maybe. Then the production manager at SUCO, I would expect that the rest of this last paragraph will be the gist that will guide our discussion. So they will set up, even though we have some things already that we know, but most of the gist that would guide our discussion will usually be maybe at the end now. So the production manager of SU at SU is responsible for all purchases and production issues which occur. So we'll know what we are complaining about with respect to that production manager. So he's responsible for purchases. So material price variances will be his issue. Is responsible for production. So production issues, whether it's in terms of usage variance or in terms of labor efficiency variance, that would also be the issue. That's what they're giving us the information for. And SUCO uses standard costing, and usually each time a design change takes place, the standard cost card is updated prior to production commencing. So that means they have already taken that into account. Is that what they're saying? Let's just read to the end. However, the company accountant responsible for updating the standard has been off sick for the last 2 months. All right. So that's the issue now. You can't blame someone that is sick now when we come to blame. And consequently, the standard cost card for the new dresses has not yet been updated. Okay, so that's why we need the planning and operational. If not, I was wondering where they were heading to with this information. So normally they would update their standard at the beginning of the period. However, in this case, they are not updating the standard because someone is sick. And so we would expect a planning variance that will not be a bad reflection on the production manager, because even though the production manager is responsible for purchasing and production, the standard has not been updated to reflect whatever the planning variance to be. So expect adverse planning variances everywhere. So it looks like planning and operational for material, right? So material variances in as much details as possible. So very likely we're going to have it's not mix and yield. They didn't give us two components. It's just one component of material. So all we need now, the only way we are going to do the material variance is planning and operational. I hope you're seeing the kind of things you're going to have to think of in lightning speed in the exam. You don't have any mix and yield. Mix and yield will only occur when you have 2 or more inputs into your production process. So material, the only way we can do material in as much detail as possible is to do material usage planning, operational, and material price planning, and material price planning, planning and operational for material price, and planning and operational for material usage. So we can set up. And then the labor asks us for only the efficiency part of the variance. We should just be careful. I saw $12 per hour. That's fine. And then what else did we see? We saw, I didn't read the question clearly enough, and I don't have this question. This is going to stress. Okay, I have it on my phone. So we have to, there's one sneaky part that I felt was going to give us stress, which was they said that it costs, was that each new dress, if you read the middle of the second paragraph, each new dress requires 2.2 meters of material, which is 10% more material than the previous style of dress required. So our previous style of dress required will be 90% of that, Abi. 2.2 is 100%. So 90% will be whatever it was before. Okay. All right. There's a lot of quietness. So Ella, are you here?
Is it me?
What's the name of the question? SU, Abi? Is this SU? Yeah, SU. Why is everybody quiet now?
SU code. SU.
Me, I'm playing with plates, so I don't want you to disturb.
Yeah, I know your own is a special case, but the rest of us. So material and labor variances. All right. So I think at least we have an idea of what we're doing now. All right. So what's our first step now? This kind of things, like I said, it's easier for us to just start picking all the things that we need. So we have material variance. Should we put the original one, or have we gotten strong enough? So the A now.
The original.
All right. So our original variance now. The A was what required. I don't think I can be going back and forth like this. I don't know if it will work. This thing is not even coming up. So I have to use my phone. All right. So SU. So the first one was material variance.
Yeah.
So our original performer was standard quantity, standard price. Actual quantity, actual price. Actual quantity, standard price. And actual quantity, actual price. All right. And then that's our material. So we'd have the top one was usage, Abi. Just continue writing that.
Yeah. Usage.
And the down one was price. All right. So what we need to do now is for the planning part. So we'll have material planning. So that we can have usage and price. I don't know, this mustn't be how we structured it before, but we can be flexible. So the usage part now. So for usage, so how do we do our usage now? Our usage will be, so what did we say? We're comparing standard with revised standard. However, the standard, we're not going to touch the standard. So standard price, just leave one space. Not too much space. And then standard price. And then we're comparing standard with revised standard, Abi. So standard quantity and revised standard quantity. All right, so that's that. And then the price now. We can come and have our price variance now. So our price will be, we'll keep the quantity constant because we're not touching the quantity. So actual quantity, actual quantity. So actual quantity, and then we're comparing standard with revised standard. So standard price and revised standard price. All right, so that's that for our material. Yeah, is that me?
Is your screen full? Is it on full?
Yes, it is.
Maximum. Okay.
Abi?
I don't
How?
maximize the Excel. Let me see. I think we need can you maximize it more?
This space, is it going to be enough to fill in all the blanks? All right, so I'll come to this other side and put my material operational now. So material operational. And then we have our figures. So for the usage part, so usage. And then we said with that, we're comparing revised standard with actual. So we just have our standard price. So standard price. Maybe we can even copy those other ones and put them directly. So here we're comparing revised standard. So revised standard price with the actual price. All right, so that's our usage. And then we have our price finally. So for our price, we want to still write that. So I think the designing of this thing outside exam condition will be very useful. So actual quantity will remain the same. Actual quantity. And then all we'll do now is our revised standard price versus actual price. Abi? So revised standard price, actual price. All right, so that's that. So we can start picking our information from the question now. So
the usage, is it that usage, is it okay? My brain is deceiving me. It's okay, bro.
Yeah, it looks okay to me if I follow what I'm saying. The usage was standard price. Come and put standard price and standard price. Then compare revised standard with actual quantity. Okay, that's where the issue is. Thank you. And that this place too should have been actual revised standard quantity. Yeah. All right. So that's what you were saying, and that was right. All right. So we're fine now. All right. So we come to start picking all our figures. So we can scroll up. Time. And I think the same thing for labor too. So I don't know whether we should do everything at once.
Anyone.
So let's set up our labor because it might be difficult to do this now. So our labor, what did they ask us for?
Efficiency. For efficiency.
Ask us for
labor.
efficiency. So labor efficiency. Was there any need to write that one too again? So our labor efficiency, if we want to write, would have been standard hour, right?
Yes. Standard.
Remember, we'll just take only the first two. I don't know how that thing is going to help us now. So our efficiency, our main labor variance would have been standard hour. Since we're looking for only efficiency, it's only the first two. The other, so standard hour, standard rate, and actual hour, standard rate. That's the efficiency. So we want to break this down into its planning and operational components. So we'll do the same thing. So planning will be, we're comparing, so standard rate is constant. And then we have our standard with revised standard. So standard hour and revised standard hour. And then for the other parts, we have our operational on this side. And so our operational, once we set this up, we can come back and do the work. So we have, what's that now? Our is rate that is now
Reverse standard hours.
Yeah. So we're comparing a dropped waistband. Oh yeah, it's Kosi I was thinking of. Another meeting. So each new dress requires 2.2 meters, which is 10% more than the material, 10% more material than the previous style of dress required. So it means that our standard quantity, we don't know, but our revised standard quantity we know. So revised standard quantity
2.2.
Revised standard quantity is 2.2. These things would have to be done in very, very quickly in the exam. Now, the revised standard quantity will be equal to, since the revised standard is 110, right? So that will be 2.2 multiplied by 100 divided by 110. Since the standard quantity must be the 100, must be the original, right? I don't want to share this thing. Okay, let's just do that. I know this one will not waste our time. All right, so if we're thinking about that, if we think about it, our for 2.2 is our revised standard. Our revised standard quantity is 2.2, which is equal to, so that's in absolute terms, which is equal to 110. And then our standard quantity is X, we don't know that one, which is equal to 100, right? So this implies now that our standard quantity is equal to, what's that now? 2.2 times 100 divided by 110. So that's where we got that figure from. Is this fine for everybody? I think we've discussed this already. The silence is deafening.
So I didn't get it before.
Yes.
I was totally out.
All right, so that's the idea, was that the revised standard quantity is 110%. So this is in percentage. So at least if I'm not sure of, and this is absolute. So this is absolute, and this is percentage. So 2.2 was 110%, because they said this is 10% more. So be careful about when it is 190 and when it is 110. So the original, what it is supposed to be, is the 100%. So this is not what it is supposed to be. This is the increase by 10%. However, in another case, you will see where you are saying it is 10% less, something like that. Then it will be, the original will always be the 100%. So we look for what is the original in any question, and that will determine what we are doing. I know that this causes some level of confusion, so be clear about it. That's why I've taken the pains to get it out. Is that clear? Did you get what I said?
Yes.
All right. So we can. Yes, we are. Please tell me when it comes up.
It's
Just
up now.
came.
It's up now?
Yes.
All right, so it's 2.2 times 100 divided by 110.
Yeah.
So that gives us, so that's 2 for our standard quantity. All right, so we continue through what the question requirement is. All right, so we have standard quantity and revised standard quantity. Okay, then however, the new material has also been chosen, which costs 2.6 per meter, which is 5% cheaper than the material used, 2.85. I don't know what I said earlier, which is cheaper. So that's, we have the same issue, Abby. So our standard price now, and is it per unit or per meter? Per meter. So per meter means it's standard price. So our standard price will be exactly the same issue. So that's 2.85. If we think about what we just did now, so times 100 divided by 105. I hope I'm not rushing this thing. I'm not thinking about it. So then the revised standard price now is that figure.
I thought it said 5% cheaper. So isn't it supposed to be 95?
So that's one of the things. I know that I'm rushing this thing and I'm not thinking. So they said which costs only 2.85 per meter, which is 5% cheaper.
Cheaper.
So we'll pay less. Oh, so that is less, Abby? All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's fine. So that's
95.
95 and so this one is let
100.
All right, so let's wait. So they said, however, the new material has also been chosen by GPST, which costs only 2.85 per meter. So 2.85 is the revised standard, right? Because it is cheaper than the material previously used. So the material previously used was
Standard.
100.
Yeah.
So it will be cheaper. So that's 95, right?
95. Yes.
All right. So 2.85
Yes.
is equal to 2.85 multiplied by 100 divided by 95. So that's 3. Okay. When you have figures that are not plenty decimals, you know that you're basically doing the correct thing. All right. So that's that. And then what did they tell us? In February, the total amount of material used and purchased at this price was
Material.
560 meters. 560 meters. What's that now? Our actual quantity, Abi?
Price.
Yes.
Be careful, guys. That's not actual
Quantity.
production. That's quantity. So actual quantity is what's that? 54560. All right. What's next? I think that's all for. I hope that's all.
Actual
Material.
price.
Material.
Actual price. Did we have actual price?
That's all for material.
I didn't see actual price.
That's all.
Okay, no, we don't need actual price.
For material, we needed everything. Now. We had price variance. See price down. Now
But it's the
for
revised
material.
standard price that we
Yeah.
need. We don't need actual price.
See actual price here.
We still
Looking
need
at me
actual
now.
price.
All right, let's get to the end. Maybe they will give us information, but we need actual price, and we don't have actual price for material. Usually actual quantity, actual price will be given to you in total, and I've not seen anything. All right, so let's just, the new design meant that complicated new sewing techniques needed to be used. Consequently, all staff training could begin production. The manager expected each to take 10 minutes compared to 8 minutes. So our standard hour,
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
So 8 minutes was standard, then revised standard hour was 10 minutes, Abi?
Yeah.
Yes.
So standard hour.
10. Yes.
Standard hour is 8, right? So that's 8.
Yeah.
Remember, that has to be 8 divided by 60. But we have to get it in hours. This is an ugly figure. And then our standard price, our revised standard hour will still be, should I just put it like you advised the other day? We should just put it as, but I still need the figure now. So that's 8 divided by 60. 8 minutes divided by 60 minutes. It will still solve itself. So this one is 10 minutes divided by 60 minutes. So that's 0.16666. So that one too is ugly. So 10 divided by 60. All right. So that's fine. And then each staff works 160 hours per month and is paid a wage of $12 per hour. So 160 hours is not really telling me anything. Total time worked, I don't know that I need that for anything. Then I need the standard is paid and is paid $12 per hour. What's $12 now? Standard rate or actual rate?
12 to the hour.
Standard rate.
Standard rate.
Standard rate of 12. All right, so
Standard
that's
rate.
Because they
dollar
said
per
there's
hour.
no rate,
That's the important
there's
thing.
no rate variance.
All right, all right, all right. So that's that. So the standard rate will be equal to the actual rate if there's no rate variance, Abi?
Yeah.
Do you get
So they
that?
say all staff works all of their contract hours. So it's not
Yeah, and they said there's no rate variance. So what that there's no rate variance means would be that the standard rate will be equal to the actual rate. If you go down, remember that it's actual is constant. It's the rate that is changing. The standard rate is equal to actual rate, then there's no rate variance. So that makes it easy for us to pick that. Now our budgeted production and our actual production. So I think we need only actual production. We never need budgeted production. So actual production. Our actual production is 24,000. All right, so that's that. I'm still very bothered about my actual price. So not seeing it anywhere. Yeah, I rushed through. Which cost this? In February, the total, it costs this. It costs 2.85. So 2.85 has to be my actual price too. Do you get that? It costs this. However, a new material has also been chosen by this, which costs only this, only 2.85. So that has to still be my actual price if it comes to that.
Yeah.
So 2.85. All right, so let me just start filling in things. If I get stranded, then I'll come back. So standard quantity, this took a long time. Standard quantity 2. Standard quantity is short for standard quantity of something. So we have that. And then our standard price is, what's standard price? Standard price was
3.
all right.
3.
So that's that. Standard quantity now. Revised standard quantity, revised standard quantity is 2.2.
2.2.
Revised standard quantity is also short for revised standard quantity of actual production. And then our standard price is the same 3. All right. And then if we want to do our price variance, our actual quantity is that. So we can have, and then our standard price, we already had our standard price upstairs. So we just pick it from there. Then our actual quantity is still same thing. And then our revised standard price, I don't think we've talked about standard price yet. So revised standard price is equal to whatever that figure is, revised standard price. Okay. All right, so that's that. And then we come to this other side again. Revised standard quantity is equal to revised standard quantity. Revised standard quantity is short for revised standard quantity of actual production. So actual production, that. And then standard price. Standard price is, we already had it there, so that's our standard price. So the work is always setting it up. So standard price is the same figure there. And then actual quantity, we got our actual quantity earlier as that. All right. And then we're finally almost home. So actual quantity, we know actual quantity every time. So actual quantity is just the same figure that we've been picking. And then our revised standard price, we had our revised standard price somewhere. So if I don't want to start going back upstairs, I could have picked it around there. That's revised standard price. And then what's actual price now was where the issue I had was, so the actual price in this question, they didn't give me, that's why they said in as much detail as possible, because they wanted to give me a headache. So there's no variance here. And you see, my price variance is nil, because everything is the same figure. Do you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So we are done. So we can do our labor if we wanted. Our standard hour, let's just be sure that we have everything so that we can come and tidy this up. Standard hour, we go up. So standard rate, standard hour of actual production. So our actual production, this is where your ability to remember everything now comes in. I hope I didn't jump anything. And then standard rate. Standard rate is rate per hour. So that's the 12 there. And then our revised standard hour. I think our revised standard hour was the 1.666. So revised standard hour. And then we already have our rate. Revised standard hour 2 is short for revised standard hour of actual production. So we have the actual production. And then our rate has been asking about this thing since I've seen anything. All right, so operational now. If I have anything, I have my revised standard hour there already. So I just come and pick it from here without going upstairs. And then my standard rate is the same figure there. Remember, revised standard hour is short for revised standard hour of actual production. So we can pick that figure there. And then my actual hours now. So we have to go, that's why they gave us that figure. So they said the actual hour was what? 160 hours per month. Abi?
Yeah. Each of whom
So
works
160 hours.
160 hours per month.
So actual hour is 160. All right, so I can pick my actual hour now. 160. And then the rate is the same rate. All right, so we can come and do, these ones are different though. So I'll start from where I stopped. So this multiplied by that, multiplied. Oh, Kingsley, this thing is not going to be that easy today. They try to make it as ugly as possible. Then this one is equal to that. I want to check whether this thing is wrong, because that's the one that's not sitting well for me. It's wrong. So what is wrong with this? Actual hour is what? 160 hours per month. What do we need to do to that? What adjustment do we need to make to it? You said what?
There are 24 staff.
Multiplied by the number of staff.
Oh, there are 24 staff. Oh, okay. So
yes, multiplied by the number of staff.
All right, so let's get that. So actual hours is equal to 160 multiplied by the 24 staff. All right. So that's equal to at a particular point you will learn how to cheat. So 3840. Where's that? Okay. All right. So it has changed. It has changed. It has changed. All right. Good. Good for copying things. All right. So we have our answer here. So this variance now will be equal to this minus that. Abi? Where did we put it? Doesn't matter, Joe. And that's favorable, Abi?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's just do the label. I know that we're through it. That we have done our label pane. And we can go to other things. All right, so let's do this one. So this is equal to this multiplied that multiplied that. That one makes it easy for us to just come and copy that. So we're going to check whether this will work for us in the exam. Control copy and then just paste it there, right? All right, so that should do what we want it. And then we can come and do our variance. Where are we putting this? So we can shift it a little bit. So shift it there. And so that will be equal to this one minus this one. And you're looking adverse. So 9, 6, adverse. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so the hand has started strong in, so we can rush through some things, even though there should be some level of more speed somehow in the exam, because this is still quite long. All right, so we go upstairs now. We don't do everything. So this one should be easier for us to do. So we come to our standard quantity, standard price. So it's equal to this multiplied that multiplied that. All right, so that's that figure. And then we can copy it. All right, so copy and paste it everywhere. Oh, that one is not 3. So we'll paste it for all the ones that are 3, Abi. All right, so we can paste it for all the ones that are 3. It's exactly there. So this one is not 3. So the others are 2. So we're going to do the 2 for every other one is 2. Right, so we'll do the one for 2 now. So this is equal to this one multiplied by that one. And then we can copy and paste for everybody. We can paste it there. We can paste it here too. Figure should not change. All right, yeah, that's what we expected. We can paste it here. We can paste it there finally. All right, so we expected a nil variance here, like we said. We already saw that those figures were the same. So nil. And then it's the remaining ones now that are our issues. So this is equal to this one minus that one. Right. Okay, so we want to call that adverse. Let's not forget. Yeah. I don't know whether that was okay. That's cool. Where's that one here? Beautiful. Don't you love working on Excel? So adverse, favorable. If you write everything and you don't write your what it is, then that's the end. If you don't put adverse or favorable, and you've just done work for someone else. All right, so that's that. We're done with the computation of this one. So how do we work now? We should go to the next one, Abi.
Yes.
I think we should just let me leave you to do the. Yes, please.
Sorry, Brian, before we leave, in the beginning you mentioned something. You're saying something about the new format as in modern day question. That was what you're saying.
I didn't hear you. You said I was saying what?
You were saying something about the modern day questions, as in like what they said, material.
They will not. You know that this question now required you to use skill to know what they were asking you for. They didn't come and tell you calculate the material planning and material operational or one thing or usage or price. They just told you calculate the variances in as much detail as possible. And one of the ways we would have checked that we were doing the correct thing was when we got a nil variance somewhere. So it's not everything that you have information for. So if you don't have information for it, don't calculate it. However, they have used sense in asking you the question in such a way that the revised standard price and the actual price are the same. We don't have information to give us anything that is different in that case. So that's why they said in as much detail as they want to really, is when you've really understood it that you can now be able to conjure this kind of thing in your mind and know exactly and be able to get all the computational marks they're asking you for. So unlike before where they will tell you calculate the sales price planning and sales price operational or material total variance, those kind of things. This one, they just told you calculate the material variance in as much detail as possible. Then for the labor efficiency, they didn't want to punish you because because the actual rate and the standard rate are the same. So they just told you calculate only the efficiency part. Also understanding that if you know it well, then you know that efficiency has nothing to do with the rate. So you won't bother looking for that rate figure. So this is the advanced level. Now this is where variance is now it's no longer play, those other ones that we were doing. Now it's now, do you really understand this thing so that you know what exactly you need? Because when you're seeing that for the first time in the exam, then you're in trouble. But if you've seen how to do these things before and you've thought about them, then you will have a fighting chance of passing the question. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've done everything we're supposed to do here. So we can just skip along quickly to the second computational part. Then I'll require you, maybe in the second one now, we can now have the time to, I don't think so. We have already spent two-thirds of our class on this part. So the second one, okay, let's just go and start reading it before we.
Sorry, Brian, would there be a need to do the usage and price, the normal usage and price?
If we are discussing, yes. That's why I'm leaving up to you. So if we can say our planning variance is altogether adverse, our operational variance is also adverse. So we're going to blame this guy. For once, the manager did not do well. So this would have made a good discussion. The manager did not do well. Operational part is adverse, except something, yes, it's adverse. So we're not going to commend the operational because it just looks like if every time operational manager will do well. However, the labor part was favorable. Okay, so how much adverse and how much favorable? 5,000 compared to 1,000 is still going to blame him. The planning part was adverse in every case, but the price planning was favorable. So that's interesting, Jisto. I'll leave that up to you. Let me see what you will say. It's important to see what you say. But that's very, very rough. So if we looked at our total, okay, how do we do this? Our total usage now, the total usage is very adverse because both the planning, yeah.
I said even without going too far, why the planning is cheaper. Price planning.
The price planning is what?
You can see from the question why it is cheaper.
Why it's favorable? Okay, why it's favorable? Because they change material. So that's not, we don't give him any blame. He did not do anything in terms of negotiation. That's why the variance was, the price operational was nil. However, the usage was very, very weak. So of course, we know that, yeah, even though we would blame him one kind, but the change in material
learning curve.
Yeah, so that learning curve.
So even the price, Brian,
will also be a reason why.
Even the price, Brian, he negotiated cheaper price, 5% cheaper.
He didn't.
It was a change in material.
Yeah.
It's the price, it's the change, it's the material that is 5%.
He didn't negotiate anything for the price. If not, the price will tell us now. See the material operational price is nil. So nothing changed. He just did what he was supposed to do. There's nothing happening with the price.
But why don't you, what of if you say for the usage now? Because yes, apart from the learning curve effects, that is a new design, the staff went for training. What of the aspect of what if you use that's like they stated how many staffs and how much they are being paid? What if you relate something like maybe the staffs are not too motivated? That's why even though with even with the training, like the zeal to manage the material, the usage, like maybe leads to wastage or something. Apart from the learning curve effects.
That because they are not happy, Abi.
Yes.
You know that you will not learn if you're not happy. Like some of the things we said, that if there's no motivation. So yeah, those kind of things. That's where now I now start agreeing with those discussions that we had earlier. That in this case now we can now start arguing for the fact that maybe the staff are not motivated. There might be issues that are arising. However, this doesn't look good for the manager. It just doesn't look good. There's no denying the fact that in terms of the usage of material, it doesn't look good. However, there are issues that might have warranted the fact that they have just started. So maybe over time, this might improve, but it doesn't look good for the manager. The labor, on the other hand, is okay. At least the planning part was advanced route to solving our question. I just didn't get this thing up.
Yeah, we are here.
All right, so our question is Truffle, right? So let's just set it up. All right, so if we read question Truffle, it tells us that the company makes high quality handmade chocolate truffles, which it sells to a local retailer. And then it told us that all the chocolates are made in batches of 16 to fit the standard boxes supplied by the retailer. And then that the standard cost of labor for each batch is $6. That's the most important part of the question. And the standard labor time for each batch is half an hour.
Yes, that's 30 minutes.
That's 30 minutes, that's 0.5 hours. So with that, our requirement to this question said we should calculate the labor rate and total labor efficiency variance based on the standard costs provided above. And then it says, analyze the labor rate and total labor efficiency variances into the component parts for planning and operational variances in as much detail as the information allows. Can you see that if you do the B part of the question, you would have done the A part? Is that obvious to you?
Okay, labor efficiency variance.
We're still doing the same labor efficiency and labor rate variance, but they asked us for the total in the first part, and then asked us to break the labor rate and efficiency variances into the components, planning and operational. So if we get the total planning and we get the total operational usage and rate and efficiency, then we would have done the question. However, this also helps us to do the question the way we prefer it by and large, which is to first of all write the basic variance. So the first one we're doing is the basic variance, and then after that we're now doing the variances spread into the labor, the operational and planning aspects. So we'll start with our labor variances. And I'm glad that my time has shortened as much as it has. It's just explanation that will cause us a little delay. If not, we'll just start putting, so standard hour, standard rate, right?
Yeah.
And then actual hour, actual hour, standard rate, and then actual hour, actual rate. And then we also need to, so I'll leave the remaining space for us to fill in the blanks. And then we can come down and then do our, with this now, it gives us the opportunity to set up our planning and operational. So B.
Operational.
So we have our labor planning. And then we'll put our labor operational somewhere. So labor operational. All right, so for our planning, we have our basic performance to guide our thoughts. So for our planning variance, we have our standard. So we will first have our usage, I'm sorry, what's that now? Efficiency first. Efficiency is on top, Abby.
Efficiency.
Because if you remember, we can come here and put that this would have been efficiency.
Efficiency and rate.
And this would have been rate. All right. Okay. So we can come down now. So we have our efficiency on top. And so our efficiency, we're comparing standard with revised standard for the
standard rate.
Yes, so we'll come here. So our standard rate will be constant, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just come and put standard rate, and then well, the only difference is now comparing standard hour with revised standard hour for the efficiency. And then we can go down and do our rate. So for rate, we're comparing rates now, still standard with revised standard. So we'll just come and put them how we have them in the basic performer for the hours, because the hours are not going to change. So we have actual hour, space, actual hour. And what we are doing now is comparing standard rate with revised standard rate. All right. And then we have exactly the same thing for the other side of the equation, we're going to call it. All right, so is there any need to copy? So we'll just write it out one by one. So standard hour, and what are we comparing here? We're comparing our efficiency is, the rate is constant. So we can come and have our standard rate and standard rate, Abby. So the standard rates are constant. So our issue is now with revised standard versus actual, right? The revised standard hour and actual. All right. And then finally our rate. And then we'll try as much as possible to maintain the same thing. So for rate, our actual hour is constant, so we don't have a problem with that. Rate, yes, actual hour, right? So our issue is we are comparing the revised standard rate with the actual rate.
Standard rate.
right?
Standard rate.
Yeah.
No, sorry, actual rate. Yeah.
All right, so we have everything that we need. Now the rest of it now is just, we can go and make all of them. So we can start putting all our information. So our standard hour now, what do we need? Standard hour. What does the question tell us? Standard hour is 0.5, of course,
0.5,
30 minutes. So 0.5. There's something I'm going to put on top. Our what's next? Our standard rate. I want to put the standard rate immediately. Our standard rate is what?
$6.
No, it's not.
Okay.
The standard cost of labor is so the standard cost of labor for each batch is $6 for each batch.
It's $6.
I'm going to put this thing up here. Please don't forget this one. Don't forget this one. I saw the trick from the beginning of the question. Now, please note. Said this before. The standard rate per unit is per unit or batch, or because in this question they said batch. So whether it's per unit or per batch, your standard rate per unit is equal to standard hour standard rate. The standard rate is your standard rate is actually your standard rate per hour, not per unit. That was the tricky and the disturbing part of this question. It means that if our standard hour standard rate is 6, right? So maybe I should continue it on that before I start. So if standard hour standard rate is, equal to 6, then our standard rate will be equal to the standard hour standard rate divided by the standard, what are we looking for? Standard hour, which will be equal to the 6 divided by 0.5. That's the difference between passing this question and failing it, the way we do it. Is this clear?
Can you explain it, please?
No, explain. I don't understand.
Can you explain it?
Ella, particularly you is where I would expect. We have said this before. Our standard hour, our standard rate. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right. The standard rate per unit is your standard hour standard rate. Is your standard rate is standard rate per hour, not per unit. So remember, let me show you what I'm saying now. We'll usually see something. We'll see something like 12 here, and then 3. I'm just using an example, and then hour 8. Now this is your standard hour. This is your standard rate. This is your standard hour standard rate. That's how. Is this clear? Can you hear me? Was I breaking? Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right. So I said I'm giving you hypothetically now an example. Hypothetically, if your standard hour is 12, your standard rate is 3. Your standard hour standard rate, remember the standard hour is standard hour per unit. Your standard rate is standard rate per hour,
Yes.
while your standard hour standard rate is per unit. Now, this one is in dollars. You have to see this thing in your mind. This is in dollars. This is in dollars. And this is in hours. Now, this has to be clear in your mind. Now, if they gave you a rate per hour, that is the standard rate you normally use in your computation. But if they gave you a rate per unit, then the rate per unit is not your standard rate the way you know it. It is your standard hour standard rate. So for you to get your standard rate the way you know it, you have to do the standard hour standard rate divided by the standard hour. That's what, so if we did 36 in this case, divided by 12, we'll get the 3. So if we go back to what the question says, look at the question. The question told you the standard rate per batch, that is the standard rate per unit, is 6. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Gertrude, you asked me to explain, re-explain. Is Gertrude here?
Yes.
Gertrude did not answer.
I'm hearing you. I'm answering you.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
All right. Is this fine? Can we move on?
Yes.
All right. So that was just for explanation's sake. Please just remember that part. That's the twist in this question.
Good no tutorial, no.
All right. So our standard rate now, our standard rate is 12. Now we go on and pick the remaining things we need. What else do we need? Our revised standard. What did they tell us? All right, so they said Truffle has a budgeted production of 24,000 batches. I never ever need budgeted production, but actual production is 2,500. So I can put my actual production. So actual production is what? Actual production is what?
2,500.
2,500.
2,500. So 2,500. All right. What else? What else do we need? We need revised standard now. So they said 20,000 labor hours, 12,000 labor hours were used to complete the work, and there was no idle time. So that's our actual hours, Abi. So actual hours, I'll just shift it down. Actual hours is 12,000. All right. All workers were paid for their actual hours work. The total labor cost, so that's total labor cost is what?
1%.
So what is total labor cost in our pro forma?
Actual rate.
Thank you very much. So actual hour, actual rate in total. So actual rate, we can just have gone and put it inside there. But since we are setting it up slightly, then we'll do that. So our actual hour, actual rate is 136,800, right?
Yep.
All right, so we usually expect this in total, and it has come in total today. We can't complain about that. Why is this thing in currency? I don't want it in currency yet. Let's not go and cause confusion. If we want to design it, then we can keep it in currency. So just a number. Stay on your toes. All right, and we move on. that's that. So at the end of October, the managing director held a meeting with other staff and 5% pay cut. So 5% pay cut will give us our revised standard rate, Abby.
Yes.
So our revised standard rate will be equal to, so that will be 95% now, Abby, because there's a 5% pay cut. The 100% is the original one. So that's 95% of the original rate of 12, Abby. So 95% of 12.
Yes.
All right. So that's equal to 95% of 12. $11.4. All right. So that's that. All right. At the same time, the retailer requested for truffles to be made slightly softer. The change was implemented immediately and made the chocolates more difficult to ship. When recipe changes such as these are made, it takes time before the workers, so we have that learning curve effect, and the process is 20% slower, so we need more time. So that means we'll have our revised standard hour 20% slower, so more time. Please be careful about slower, what slower means. We'll spend more time on it. So our revised standard hour will now be equal to 120%. So I'm testing you today. I started carrying you through all the ways that we talk. So 120% of 0.5. Is that fine?
Yes.
And please don't say it's fine if it's not fine.
Yes.
So that's 1.2 times the original hours. Okay. Is everybody here?
Yeah.
Is this clear? Gertrude, is this fine? Is Gertrude here?
Yeah.
Is your network fluctuating?
I'm here.
All right. So is there any other thing here? No, nothing really. All right, so we can work with what we have now. If we get into trouble, then we'll come back and put it. So we start with our standard hour. Our standard hour is, we'll take that. Our standard hour is short for standard hour of actual production. So we'll take our actual production. Our standard rate. Our standard rate is standard rate. Then our actual hour, I think we had our actual hours that. Our standard rate now, standard rate is still the same 12. Then our actual hour, actual rate is already given to us. So we'll just come and get that final answer there. So there's no need to do any math for any calculation for that. So we have our actual hour, actual rate. Now with this, we'll now start showing some level of understanding that we need to be able to be efficient under exam conditions. And then the final one is our that multiplied that. All right, so that figure, so we have all of them. So our efficiency variance now, we can put our efficiency variance wherever we want to put it. So we can, is equal to the top minus the bottom. This thing is very, very tight. So that's here an adverse. So maybe I'll just solve that problem by shifting this thing one step. All right, so adverse. And then the rate variance. So let's just put them close to each other. Then the rate variance will be equal to this one minus that one. Now it will be easy for us to say that the rate is favorable and the efficiency is adverse. But now let's go and break it into its component parts and see where the issues arose. All right, so we go downstairs now and we'll start filling in the blanks. We have done the main thing in terms of our computation. So the rest of it is now start filling it in. So standard hour, that of actual production, never forget that. So actual production and the standard rate, which was, like I said, that was the only thing that was hard in this question, that you should have gotten your standard rate originally. Then your by standard hour, if we don't have any information, then we'll take it as the same. So we have that as the revised standard hour. Revised standard hour is still short for standard hour of actual production. And then our standard rate is the same. All right, and then we can go down to our actual hour. So our actual hour is that. Our standard rate remains the same. So I think we have everything except that. So we'll take the same actual hour from there. And then our standard rate is same there. Now, the only thing that we have an issue, which is our revised standard rate. So we go up to our revised standard rate. So that's that. And that's done. All right, and then we come to our revised standard hour now. So our revised standard hour, we already have revised standard hour at 0.6. Revised standard hour will be revised standard hour of actual production. Don't forget that. So that's of actual production. Then we have our standard rate. So standard rate, still the same 12. So we can have the standard rate replicated everywhere we need it. So 12 again. And our actual hour, we have actual hour as 12,000 up. Anywhere you want to pick it from is fine. And then our actual hour, all right. And then this one's different. Okay, it's the same thing for this. So we can paste. Is there any other place? Just that. All right, so we come to the final one. And then this is equal to this multiplied that. And then we can now copy and paste for all of the remaining ones. All right, so with that, we have everything we need. So we just come and have our answers for all of them. And with that, we're done, really. So we're just, so that's equal to this minus this one. We have that. False. Wonderful. What's that? Oh, I said wonderful. Strange. Okay, so that's not false. Sorry. So that's adverse. And we can copy that for all of them. All right, so we can copy it. Same thing for everybody. Right, so same here and same there. Of course, our rate variance is nil again. Wow, that's the second time this is happening. Are you seeing what I'm saying? You said what?
No,
all right, let's check whether that's true. The 7-2, we have to check upstairs. 7.2 favorable. So the two rates, planning and operational rate must give us the same rate upstairs. So let's check 7.2 rate is 7.2 plus 0. So the rate upstairs is 7.2. Okay, so that's true. You see that? So all the rate variance was associated with the planning part. Because this 7.2 we check out with, if we add the two of them, they must give us the rate upstairs. Just like if we add these two now, if we add these two, this is 24,600 minus 24,600 plus 3,600 is what?
21.
What's that now? That's 21. So if we go upstairs, we will see that that is 21 adverse 2. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you add the planning and operational, if you add the planning and operational for any variance, it will give you the total variance. That's why I'm saying that if I was lazy in the exam, I would have just done this B and added two of them together. I will get my efficiency and my rate. Do you remember when I was saying earlier that if we did the B, we would have been able to get the A from the B?
Yeah.
Because your total planning and operational for any variance. So your efficiency, this is efficiency, this is efficiency, this is efficiency. So all you've done is broken down your efficiency into the planning and the operational. If you add two of them together, you will get, if you add two of them together, you will get the total variance. Is this clear?
Yeah.
There's some level of quietness today that is worrisome. At this point, I thought we would be excited.
No, we are simulating. No, that's why we're not talking.
Okay, quietness is a sign of assimilation.
Silence is consent. No?
Okay, yeah, silence is consent. This is law now. All right, so that's that. That is our variance. I don't know, is there any question? Anything that we've not?
Wait,
it's
Mr.
only the
Klein,
discussive
I
part.
don't understand. You said if we add
Yes.
all the final answers for the variances, that will give us that efficiency. Only the efficiency ones for planning and operational.
Only the efficiency ones.
Okay.
If you add your planning and operational for efficiency, it will give you your total efficiency variance. If you add your planning and operational for rate, it will give you your rate. If you add your mix variance for your mix and yield, it will give you your usage variance.
Okay, yeah, I've gotten it.
Your total usage variance. If you add your mix and quantity, it will give you your total sales volume variance, and so on and so forth. Any variance that is broken down into subcomponents, like if you wanted to get our total labor variance, if they just ask you for the total labor variance, then if you add the efficiency and the rate, that's where we started from in our basic variances. And that's where we are ending with this. If we add the efficiency and the rate together, we'll get our total variance. So it's like subtracting 1 minus 3. That's the top minus the toppest minus the bottomest.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
All right. Now, our final, what they asked us to do was the performance of the production manager. So, like I said, I was going to give 2 assignments for the discussive parts. Now, what would our general discussion be? Has the production manager done well or not?
Has done well.
Has done well. Efficiency is favorable, and the rate is 0. What did they say? Is he in charge of negotiating prices? Is he in charge of negotiating prices with labor? What did they say his function is? Or they didn't tell us? Well, they didn't tell us anything.
They didn't tell us anything.
Okay, all right. But the performance of the production manager will generally be involved with production, and the efficiency variance, the operational part is favorable. The reason for the adverse efficiency variance, of course, is because of this new slightly softer truffles that is taking them a long period to be able to imbibe the So the whole learning curve effect has come back again, and this is not the first time we are seeing it. And then the rate variance is favorable. Of course, the reason is that they reduced the price fell a bit. Or the rate variance was because of the cut of that 5% cut in the staff wages. And it's obvious that the cut in the wages did not affect their performance, because efficiency is still favorable in operational terms. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. It was with their church mind that they allowed that cut. So the motivation did not dwindle, obviously, from this information that is, because we are seeing that the operational variance is still favorable, even with the pay cut. So the staff are still motivated. They understand the reasons why they are taking that pay cut. That's something I'm going to mention if I were discussing this.
Discuss this one. We'll do the other one assignment.
What does, I want to see your writing. It's Ayo that is explaining me,
I
because
will
I
write
was
another one.
Okay, some people are not at home. They're waiting for class to enter so that they can go. All right. So, very briefly. So what did we say? The total efficiency variance is adverse, while the total, all right, so we can, and this is the cheating one now, because it's the other one I would have preferred to discuss.
I don't know.
So this one's
not doing anything like that.
Yeah, so I would have liked to see your conversation, because this one still is doing something similar to what we are used to, which is that he has done well, but the other one looked like, I haven't really done well. But of course, there are issues surrounding it, which are always the parts that I really want to see you discuss all these things. I want to look at what you're saying and listen to whether the arguments are good or bad. So you say we should still go ahead and discuss this one? So you want to write it and give it back to me?
Yeah.
All right. So I want the two of them. I want the two. So the assignment. So let me put C assignment. I'm going back to the other one too. So I want to hear your assignment. At least we've discussed them briefly. So all I want you to do now is to show the strong hand. And then ESCO, I'm back to ESCO. So ESCO, the C assignment again. So let me just shift this a little down. And I remember someone earlier, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ayo that said, we want to write. Let me see what the writing is. Please, I beg you, in anything you believe in's name, please try as much as possible to do this one. To give us an opportunity to be able to, so sit down, look at the numbers and discuss them based on the scenario. I'll be glad if I can get them by next tomorrow, so that I can look at them before our class on Saturday. Or if I get it if you send it on Saturday morning, I won't see it till or if you send it on Friday by 2 a.m., because that's the way some people used to do their own. They'll just wait and send it by 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, when someone's mind has entered the other things that the classes that are going to hold. All right, so please just try and discuss them and let us lower. If we were faster by 20%, for example, then it would be 80% of that 0.5. So we'll reduce, the time will be smaller. That's the first thing you should be thinking about before you start, because yes, the 110, we saw how the other one was 110 and the other one was 95. All those things, these are things that we should sit down and pause and think about. Like I said, the standard, the original standard will be the 100%. So you walk either forward or backward from the original standard, depending on what you're giving in the question. In some questions, they will give you the original and tell you there will be an increase of that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or a decrease of that. In the question, in the one that was really troublesome was the SUCO, where they gave you the revised standard and they expect you to walk back the standard. then in that case now you're not going to be reducing the value, but you're going to understand that your standard is always going to be the 100%. So the revised standard in this case, because the revised standard was higher than the standard, then the revised standard will be 110%, because the standard will always be the 100%.
No problem. Thank you.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
All right. So I think we have, I'm pretty confident in my mind that we have too many variety of questions that we've looked at for one to be comfortable with doing variance under exam conditions. All right. Is there any other thing?
No.
It's you that I'm not happy that you say you don't remember that one, because we said we did it we did it together. We explained this thing, we wrote it, you copied it inside your note. That's why I told you to get better notes. You went to, you carry 20 leave and say it's sweet for you to be carrying so that nobody will know that you're doing.
Mr. Brian, I know what the
Huh? $2. That's my standard price. And then $10 is my standard price. Now, this 10 is the standard price per unit or standard rate per unit. This is per unit. This is per hour. This 2. If I put dollars now, I'm afraid that it will start disrupting things. So this is dollar. This is dollar. And this is hours. So this is the standard hour. This is the standard rate. This is the standard hour standard rate. But the standard hour standard rate is per unit. The standard rate is per hour. So if they've given you a standard rate per batch or a standard rate per unit, that's the standard hour standard rate. So what you're looking for to work with, except if you carry this 10, it means that you're going to do standard hour standard rate as 12, and then you only multiplied by actual production. You will not put the 0.5 again. Is Ella still there?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Okay.
So this is your standard hour. This is your standard rate. This is your standard hour standard rate. So if you're looking for your standard rate per hour, your standard rate is standard rate per hour. Your standard hour is standard hour per unit. Your standard hour standard rate is the standard rate per unit. Your standard hour standard rate is the standard rate per unit. The standard rate that we talk about is the standard rate per hour, not the standard rate per unit. Because standard hour times standard rate will give you your standard hour standard rate. Standard hour per unit. Standard rate, which is the more important one, is the rate per hour. If we go to quantity and material again, they can still do you the same thing under exam condition. In the exam, they might give you your standard price per unit. Yes, would you? Your standard price per unit is standard quantity, standard price. Yes.